Hi, I'm Flora, author of the blog Urban Domestic Diva, and this week we are actually enjoying a wonderful summertime vacation up in Paw Paw, Michigan. So we are at a small little lake house rental, and even though this is a small kitchen, we do a lot of cooking and we enjoy a lot of the fresh produce at a lot of the farmers markets. And one of the things we enjoy every year are peaches, Michigan peaches. If you haven't had a peach from Michigan, from a farmer's stand, you will never enjoy a peach from the grocery store ever again. It's going to spoil everything. So just warning you. But they make amazing peach pies. So today I'm going to show you how to make my sunburst peach lattice pie, and I'm going to do it in phases. Today I'm going to make the crust, and then tomorrow I'm going to wake up early and peel all the peaches and macerate them and get the pies going. And I said pies because I'm going to attempt to make three. One for my family, and then the other two are going to go to some neighbors around the area that we've gotten to know through the years. So without further ado, let's get our crust going. Alrighty, so you can see here the counter's a little crowded. Make sure we have a nice clean working area. And I'm going to do this by hand with a fork and a knife. This is really old school. I thought I packed my pastry cutter. I did not. My husband said he saw it next to the microwave just as we were leaving, and he didn't think I needed it. So you'll get to see how to do this with just a fork and a knife, where you cut in the shortening. So we have everything mise en place, meaning you've got everything at your fingertips ready to go, because you need to move a little fast when it comes to pie crusts. You don't want the butter to get soft, you don't want the cream cheese to get too soft. You're going to start by putting 1/8 teaspoon of baking powder in with your flour. You've got 1 1/3 cups of flour, and you're going to just toss in the baking powder. And then you're going to cut in your cream cheese. So I've had it chopped up here, ready to go. And it's really gooey inside, and you know, it's just really hard to cut, so just do your best to kind of cut it up. And this cream cheese crust is based on Rose Birnbaum's Pie and Pastry Bible. If you don't have it in your cookbook library, go out and buy it now. It's excellent. Excellent, excellent. So, moving fast, as fast as you can. Of course, now we're going to do this really old school with a fork. You're going to just cut in this shortening and push and mush around. And this is going to take a little bit of time, but just do the best you can. It's moving quickly, especially when you're in the summer in a Michigan lake house where things are getting a little warm. So you're just going to cut into it until it's a crumbly texture. See how I'm mushing? You hear the kids out in the lake. All that screaming. That's what summer's about. So just continue on, and I'll show you what texture you're looking for in a sec. You can see here, it's starting to look like it's kind of crumbly, and you have little pieces of cream cheese that are about the size of large peas. That's what you're looking for. And if you get tired of the fork, you can start to use your hands a little bit and just kind of crush it up. Make sure that cream cheese is evenly distributed so you get your pea-size cream cheese. Next, quickly throw in that butter. It's already softening up, I can tell you, because it's so warm in the cottage today. We're going to definitely have the air on tomorrow when we bake off these pies. Okay, back to fork and knife, because we're going old school. So, crush that up. Cut the butter in, and use your fork to kind of just get that butter in there. And cut it all up in there first, and then really use the back of your fork to mush it all up in there. And then, if you want to resort to your hands, do it quickly because your hands are warm and it's going to melt that butter. And the whole idea of having the butter all nice and cold and working cold is that you want these little pockets of shortening in between the layers of your flour so that when they melt, they leave these wonderful pockets. That's what makes things flaky. So you see here you've got nice big chunks of butter. Now I'm going to use, see these nice chunks of butter right there? Now I'm going to really get my fork and mush. Mush, mush, mush. We're going to do the food processor method. It's a little easier. Alright, at this point I'm going to cheat. Because remember, I have 3 pies to do, so I am cutting some corners a little bit. For instance, sometimes I chill that cream cheese. I freeze the butter for a little bit. But because I have so much to make. So, I'm going to mush, mush, mush. And then things are starting to come together a little bit, right? And this is when we start adding a little bit of liquid. What you have next to you is ice water. Oops, I just put a little bit in there, so count that as a teaspoon. And I've got a little bit of apple cider vinegar waiting. First off, you want 1.5 teaspoons of cider vinegar. And this is a 1/2 teaspoon. Oops, sorry. 1. And just drizzle it in there. 2, 3. So that equals 1.5. And mush that in. Now what's the apple cider vinegar for? Well, Rose Birnbaum swears by it because of what it does to the gluten. It makes for really tender crusts. So, it's already coming together. You're not going to need that much water. But it's still a little bit crumbly, right? So, you only want to add as much water to bring it together. You don't want to overdo the dough. You want to move fast. So, 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. This is a twofer right here. This is 2 tablespoons. Let's see if I'm even going to need this much. So, avoid your ice, like I'm not doing. And drizzle in about a tablespoon and see what you got. You know what? That's all this needs today, just because I think the warmth in the kitchen. In fact, I probably overdid it. Okay, so I lightly dusted some plastic wrap. You're going to divide this into 1/3 and 2/3. So making a lattice. This isn't a full-fledged 2. So that looks about right. Right? So that's going to be your main. This is going to be your lattice. Notice how one is smaller than the other. So take your big one, plop it on there. Because you don't want to knead it too much, you're going to wrap it loosely. Now what you're going to do is flatten it into a nice round disc. Ta-da! I do have another video on YouTube that talks about, really in depth about just getting the perfect pie crust and baking it off in the proper way. So I'm probably not going to go too in depth on the baking of this thing. I'm going to spend more time really on the peach filling. Anyway, so do the same with this guy and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes, if not an hour. And also the crust can stay in the fridge for like 3 days and frozen for 3 months. So if you're feeling ambitious around the holidays, you want to prep some pie crusts for Thanksgiving in the summer. That way you don't have to worry about stuff come Thanksgiving. Your pie crusts are already waiting for you, and then you just defrost them and work with them. Make sure when you also do pie you have a lot of plastic wrap around. I'll explain why. Because you want to use that to help knead and flip crusts into pans. So as you can see, one's smaller than the other, right? Throw it in the fridge, and then I have 2 more to make, which you don't have to watch. Okay. We're good to go. So what we're going to do is peel the top gently. And gently flip it. I'm going to save my plastic wrap so that I can use it on a lattice. Kind of center the pan. Use your hand. Slide under. See what I'm doing here? And then push your hand up, flip over. And now you can kind of, with your plastic wrap, maneuver it a little bit. So it's all kind of centered. See? Now, you can kind of gently tuck it into the pan. Peel up. See how easy that was? The magic plastic wrap. You've got this nice overhang that you're going to use for the crust. Is it a little uneven on some sides? Sure. So you can either choose to trim it. I'm at the cottage, so I think what I'll do is maybe slice it off a little bit. You want an even crust. You don't want a mouthful of too much dough. So yeah, you can use a knife. And actually I can use this for the lattice part. I'll just kind of knead it in. Now, the gluten in this crust has been worked, which means things could get tough. So it's time to rest again, which is fine because you need to work on the lattice anyway. So once you've got things tucked in, grab some fork tines. You're going to get rid of some air pockets. Like so. Take some of your plastic wrap, wrap it up, and you're going to let it rest in the fridge for 30 minutes before you fill. And that's kind of a good thing to do with all your pies. It prevents toughness and shrinking. So in this goes, and then we're going to work on the lattice.